So the Rose Basketball Club have played in 2 games and it's not looking good for Lexie Hull.
Imagine a star player warming the bench for just 90 seconds per game after trading with high hopes. When Caitlin Clark learned about Lexie Hull's predicament with the Rose Basketball Club, her response was nothing short of explosive. Here's what happened. Caitlin Clark, a WNBA sensation, was especially outraged by Lexie Hull's current situation with the Rose Basketball Club, and believe me, there are more layers to this story than an onion.
It's really not looking good for Lexie Hull. Like, I don't know, imagine going from Christy Sides coaching where she doesn't really want to play you, and no matter what you do on the court, it doesn't matter because your coach doesn't want to play you, and then eventually your coach figures it out and starts you and plays you 30 minutes a game and your team gets better. I think Lexie Hull is going through something like that right now with the Rose Basketball Club, because Lexie Hull has played in 2 games. She has played about 8 minutes combined. Not only that, she's been good.
Let's establish the scene. The Rose basketball team has played 2 games so far, and for Lexie Hull, these games have been nothing short of a nightmare. We're talking about a grand total of only 8 minutes of playing time across both matches, but here's the thing, it's not because she's playing poorly. Rather, she's been solid in the little time she's had on the court. Now, you might be wondering what the real story is, but it's a classic case of a square peg in a round hole. The Rose's style is based on 2 shot-creating guards taking turns to make plays, and they have a system where players must create their own shots, and that's where Hull's problems start. It's like being the only vegetarian at a steakhouse. Even though you're excellent at what you do, you're in the wrong place.
Like, the problem isn't that Lexie Hull has been garbage. Lexie Hull has played well. That's the weirdest thing, is that she's actually played well. There is one issue with Lexie Hull, which is why I think she's not playing, but I think she has actually played well.
Consider your present lineup, the Roses. Chelsea Gray, who is essentially a ball wizard, occasionally makes passes that leave you wondering if she's freestyling or attempting to pass. Air Stevens and Angel Reese are there primarily to roll and seal in pick-and-roll situations, but Brittany Sykes and Kat Copper are also players who can create their own shots like artists painting on a blank canvas. It's a very specific system, like a well-oiled machine, where every part has a purpose.
And on the roster with Lexie are Chelsea Gray, Brittany Sykes, Kalia Copper, Angel Reese, and Azure Stevens.
Let's examine what transpired during their most recent match. Chelsea Gray had 3 turnovers and 6 assists, some of which were so outrageous that even her teammates were taken aback. It's like watching a jazz musician perform. You never know if the next note is improvised or intentional. The team only attempted 10 3-pointers in total, which is like going to a party and hardly touching the snack table in modern basketball. The frustration becomes even more real when you consider Hull's journey. She came from a situation with Christy Sid's coaching, where she had to prove herself day in and day out. Eventually, she earned her stripes and was playing 30 minutes per game, helping her team improve, but now she hardly gets enough court time to break a sweat. It's like finally getting your driver's license only to have your car taken away.
The Rose team lost both games, and Lexie Hull did not get much of an opportunity to play at all.
Hull is truly doing everything correctly. When given the opportunity, she demonstrates that she can defend well, even against elite opponents. However, in the Rose's system, being a good defender is insufficient. You also need to be able to create your own shot. This leads us to an intriguing point regarding player development and team building. The Row obviously has their system and is following it, but when should a team think about changing their style to utilize all of their talent? Or is it up to the players to adjust? These are issues that coaches and general managers deal with on a regular basis, but we rarely see such a glaring illustration of this conundrum. Taking place in real time, what truly sparked conversation was Caitlin Clark's response to the entire circumstance. Clark couldn't contain her annoyance when she witnessed how Hull was being used, or rather, not used, and to be honest, who can blame her when she has transformed college basketball with her own distinct style of play? Clark is more knowledgeable than most. The value of being part of a system that makes the most of your strengths, the importance of team fit in professional basketball is something that is frequently disregarded. You can be a fantastic player, but if you're in the wrong system, it's like trying to run underwater. That's exactly what we're seeing with Hull right now. She has the skills that are undeniable, especially during that crucial 15-game stretch after the Olympics, when she truly found her rhythm. Speaking of the fever, let's talk about Hull's time there. She was getting DNPs and didn't play frequently, but when she did get a chance, she showed glimpses of what she was capable of doing. The difference is that even those DNPs felt different from what's happening now. The data from the Rose's most recent games tell an intriguing tale. At least then, it was about waiting for her chance. Now, she's on the floor just long enough to remind everyone that she exists before being pulled back to the bench. One of the most annoying parts of this situation is watching the Rose's offensive sets. They run these two-guard actions where Chelsea Gray and their other ball handlers take turns creating it. It's like a dance where everyone knows the steps except Hull, not because she can't dance, but because they're doing the tango and she's trained in ballet. All the other players on the team scored in double digits except Hull, who played what felt like a blink and you'll miss at 90 seconds. That's not even enough time to get your jersey sweaty. Let's take a moment to discuss Chelsea Gray, whose play truly exemplifies why Hull is having trouble finding minutes. Gray is out there making passes that occasionally appear to be intended for players in the third row, and while 6 assists and 3 turnovers may not seem like much on paper, you can see how chaotic the game gets when you watch it. In a system like that, being a dependable spot-up shooter practically turns into a liability rather than an asset, since some of those behind-the-back passes are so unexpected that even her teammates appear taken aback. In contemporary basketball, the Rose's three-point shooting strategy is very telling because they only make 10 three-point tries as a team, and when they do, they nearly always miss the dribble or come off screens. The team's entire offensive philosophy seems to be why shoot from outside, when we can get inside. This leads us to an intriguing comparison with other teams in the league. Take the Mist, for instance, whose style is entirely different. It's all about quick ball movement, finding the open shooter, and letting it go. Hull thrives on catch-and-shoot opportunities, which are about as rare as a snow day in summer. But with the Rose, she's lucky if she gets one good look every game, and that's assuming she's even on the court long enough to get it. There's also the defensive factor to take into account. Fly put Hull on that team, and all of a sudden she's getting 4 or 5 open looks every quarter. The trade that brought Hull to the Rose is becoming increasingly dubious by the day, as Kate Martin, who went the other way in that deal, just dropped a double-double. Hull is actually a pretty good defender who has demonstrated that she can guard the opponent's best players. She is also smart about positioning and doesn't make many mistakes. However, in the Rose's system, being a good defender isn't enough. You also need to be able to create your own shot on offense, and that's just not Hull's game. Off the bench in a short period of time, certainly against the Phantom, who hasn't exactly been destroying the world, but it still raises questions about the reasoning behind the trade. Looking ahead, there are a few possible outcomes for Hull. The first, and perhaps most likely, is that she will need to hone her shot creation skills. It's not impossible. Players constantly add new skills to their game, but it's also difficult, particularly when you don't have much game time to practice these skills in real-world scenarios. It's similar to attempting to learn how to swim by reading a swimming book. Another option is a trade. For example, if you're the Lunar Owl, Hull might be an intriguing choice. Given how she's being used or not by the Rose and how her skills might actually be valuable in their system, sometimes in professional sports, it's not about how good you are in absolute terms, but rather how well your skills match what your team needs. In addition, there is the financial consideration. Hull is earning a respectable salary of between $100,000 and $250,000, which isn't small change. Some may argue that, at least she's getting paid, but professional athletes' careers are brief, and every season lost without improving or showing off your skills is a lost opportunity that you can't get back. The irony in all of this is that Hull is playing well when she gets the chance. She's 1 for 2 from three-point range, which is completely respectable. Her defense has been strong. She hasn't turned the ball over by any objective measure. She's doing what is expected of her. The issue is that what is expected of her isn't what the Rose actually needs or wants. This entire circumstance brings up some intriguing issues regarding roster creation and squad development. Do you look for players who match your system while assembling a team, or do you modify your system to accommodate your players? Although it may be difficult to understand now, seeing Hull squander away on the bench makes you question whether there isn't a better way to look at the big picture. In the long run, this could really be advantageous for Hull. The Row has obviously chosen the former method. Being in this situation could force her to develop aspects of her game that she might not have otherwise. Sometimes adversity is the best teacher, but that's small consolation when you're sitting on the bench watching your team play. Without you, the reality is basketball is a game of opportunity. You need minutes to show what you can do, and you need to show what you can do to get minutes. It's a catch-22 that many players face throughout their careers, but Hull's situation feels different because she's already shown she can contribute when given the chance. It's just that her particular set of skills doesn't match what her current team wants to do. At the end of the day, this might just be one of those situations where there's no clear villain, just a mismatch between player and team that needs to be resolved one way or another. Whether that resolution comes through adapting her game, a trade to a more suitable team, or some sort of compromise in the Rose's system remains to be seen. But one thing's for certain, something's got to give. What do you think about Lexie Hull situation? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to remain up to date on all the newest basketball drama. What's particularly interesting is how the Row run their offense. Everything, and I mean everything, goes through their high pick and roll system. Whether it starts with a handoff, a cut, or some other action, it all leads to the same place: a high screen and someone trying to get to the basket. For Hull, who's more comfortable spotting up for three and playing lockdown defense, it's like being asked to speak a foreign language without any lessons. The trade that brought Hull to the Rows is looking more and more like a miscalculation. The Kate Martin for Lexie Hull swap. Many experts are now saying Hull would have been better off with the LA team. Why? Because their style of play would have complemented her strengths better. It's like trading a surfer to a ski team. Sure, they're both athletes, but the skills don't quite translate. Let's talk about what Hull actually brings to the table. She's a 3-and-D specialist, which in most modern basketball teams is like having a golden ticket. She can knock down open threes and play tough defense. In her limited minutes, she's shown exactly that. She came in full court press the opposing team's best guard, did a solid job, didn't turn the ball over, and even hit a three. But in the Rosa system, that's like having a great parallel parking skill in a town with only pull-through spots. The contrast in playing styles becomes even more apparent when you look at other teams. Take the Mist, for example. Their whole game plan is about quick passing and shooting as much as possible. It's basketball at its most exciting. Pass, 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 shoot. Put Hull on that team, and she'd probably thrive like a fish finally being put back in water. But the Row, they're all about that half-court offense, grinding it out possession by possession. This situation has created a real conundrum for Hull. She's essentially caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, she's making good money, somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000, and getting to be part of a professional team. On the other hand, she's not getting the opportunity to showcase her skills or develop her game. It's like being paid to be a backup singer, but never getting to hold the microphone. When the Roses do shoot threes, which isn't often, they're almost always off screens with players pulling up. They don't do spot-up threes, which is Hull's specialty. It's like having a great three-point shooter, but running an offensive scheme from the 1990s. What makes this situation even more intriguing is the team's overall offensive strategy. In their most recent game, they actually shot 9 fewer shots than their opponents, even with several offensive rebounds. That's not a coincidence. It's a deliberate style. For a guy like Hull, who could flourish in a more up-tempo shooting-friendly system, choice isn't wanting to engage in a shooting competition with anybody. Instead, they want to manage the tempo, work the ball inside, and win in the trenches. It's like being a speedboat in a canal. Things get especially ironic at the defensive end.